I guess the Farwell family is just full of creepazoids, folks, as the creepy twin brother of Matthew Farwell, the disgraced former Staunton police detective who was recently indicted for the unaliving of Sandra Birchmore, has entered a voluntary decertification agreement, meaning he will no longer be a peace officer. We got a lot to talk about. Hello, and welcome to Alexasrewm, where we are not lawyers, we are not medical professionals, we are not law enforcement, we are just people who have opinions about all things going on in the true crime community, including this breaking news that popped off earlier today. Compliments to Ted Daniel, who has been all over this news from Boston 25 with this update about William Farwell, the creepy twin brother of Matthew Farwell. Just announced earlier today that William Farwell has entered into a voluntary decertification agreement. That's just a nice way of saying he was kind of forced into it out of his own will because dude has been caught red handed and the hammer is dropping. William is the twin brother of Matthew Farwell, and the feds have charged Matthew Farwell, as we know, with the unaliving of Sandra Birchmore. So, this is a document, it's just 4 pages long. We're going to get to that, but I also wanted to go through a little bit of a timeline of how Sandra Birchmore first met the Farwell brothers, because we know more about Matthew, but we don't know as much about William. More and more is starting to come out. As we know, there's a lot that we haven't even touched upon in regards to Robert Devine, who is also involved in this creepy, like Epstein-esque ring. So I want to get into a little bit of a timeline just to give you some more context. But first, let's dig into this breaking news. So again, as per Boston 25, we love their coverage of all things Massachusetts news. Police certification revoked for twin brother of former officer charged in the death of Sandra Birchmore. So again, this was literally just updated a couple of hours ago. Staunton, Massachusetts, the twin brother of a former Staunton Police Department detective accused in the 2021 death of Sandra Birchmore has agreed to no longer work in law enforcement in Massachusetts. Now, what's crazy is, in case you aren't familiar with the case, William Farwell dipped the F out. Really, when I think things started popping off with his brother Matthew, turns out he was in New Mexico, seemingly hiding out of plain sight. Peace Officer Standards Training Commission, otherwise known as POST, voted on Tuesday to decertify William Farwell. He had a whole hearing about this last month, which was streamed, I believe, by the Young Turks as well as the Glarer as well, who worked as a police officer in Staunton, Massachusetts from March of 2017 to August 1st, 2022, when he resigned. So he was working, which is so weird because when you think about all the overlap between this case, and as we know, Sandra Birchmore was a Canton resident. We talked a little bit about how there is this Canton Police Audit Committee that is trying to put together a bid for a third party agency to investigate and literally audit the early stages of this specific investigation, in addition to, of course, the Officer John O'Keefe case as well too. So it's just so interesting to see all the overlap with all the different players along with the Massachusetts State Police in this investigation too. So William Farwell, creepy Farwell, was also added to the NDI database, a national registry of police officers whose law enforcement credentials have been revoked. Farwell agreed to the permanent revocation of his certification as a law enforcement officer, and the Commonwealth Post-Commission documents showed. So this was the tweet that we just read off from Ted Daniel. I hate how this is just it takes up so much space. It makes it so hard to read these articles sometimes. In August, Matthew was indicted on charges that he unalived Birchmore, a 23-year-old woman who was pregnant with his child, inside her Canton apartment and then staged her death as a self unalivement. William Farwell is accused of misleading Massachusetts State Police investigators about the extent of his relationship with Birchmore, just continuing the vicious cycle of ABUSE, and it's absolutely disgusting. It's like Epstein's ring. It really is, but within the police, it's crazy to me. Who first met him in 2011. So, again, we're going to go through this timeline in a second. When she was a teenage member of the Staunton Police Department Explorers Program, Farwell was working as a guest instructor in the youth program at the time. So, I'm fairly certain the conversation went down like Matthew Farwell was like, hey, do you want a surefire way of getting direct access to children? Because we're creepy creeps and that's what we do. Why didn't you become a guest instructor? They're absolute animals. So Matthew Farwell is accused of grooming Birchmore through the youth program, having, again, everybody likes to report this as a relationship. Let's call it what it is, folks. It was R-ing. It was ABUSE. Let's call it what it is. There was no relationship. Relationship means that there are two consenting parties. This was not consensual. Never was. Never has been. Never was. With her 4 years, and then unalived her because she was carrying his kid, even though he agreed to have a child with her. The commission alleged that creepy brother William exchanged disgusting, explicit messages, including photos and videos with Birchmore while he was on duty when she was about 22 years of age. So, again, it's a little finicky here about when that cycle started, but one has to speculate that that didn't start until that didn't wait to start until she was of age, because if your brother can't wait, then clearly you can't, right? You guys are birds of a feather, they call it, right? William Farwell is also accused of conducting 26 unauthorized searches for Birchmore and 24 for himself in an official law enforcement database, which sounds a lot like Brian Higgins. A 2022 internal investigation by the Staunton Police found that Matthew Farwell, William Farwell, and Robert C. Devine, a former deputy chief in Staunton, all had inappropriate, and they want to use this word, Birchmore, for many, many years. And it's absolutely, this is like one of the most sickening cases, I think, honestly, I've ever come across. It's just the level of depravity in these people. Like, I can't even, they're not men, they're animals. They're absolute animals. And they deserve everything that's coming for them. After Matthew Farwell's indictment, attorney Philip Tracy told Boston 25 that prosecutors could seek the DP because of the federal unaliving a witness or a victim charge he faces. So let's get a little bit of a timeline here. William T. Farwell and his twin brother, Matthew Gregory Farwell, was born in October. Ew, I don't want to be sharing a birthday month with these scumbags. 1985 to Eleanor Farwell and William L. Farwell Sr. in Norwood, Massachusetts. I wonder if his folks are still alive and like what they think about all of this mess. But September 1998, Matthew and William joined Police Explorers Program. So they were also part of the program. They were 12. Farwell brothers were known to have disciplinary issues while attending school. I guess this is why maybe their parents encouraged them to join the Police Explorers Program. So this has been a thing for a very long time. And there has been the Case podcast. I highly recommend you checking it out. They do a total deep dive of not only just this case, but they have a whole episode dedicated to the Police Explorers Program and how it's kind of like intertwined with some of the scandals with the Boy Scouts of America, which is a whole other thing. I mean, I did like a whole rabbit hole deep dive of that when the Ruby Frankie arrests were going down and the Jody Hildebrandt, because there's a lot within the Mormon church. It's a whole thing. And that will be something that we dive into eventually on this channel. It fascinates me because I just can't in my brain connect the dots of how somebody could do the most heinous thing, and that's hurting a child, in my opinion. But I digress. So they were also part of the Police Explorers program when they were 12, which is so eerie and creepy because I think Sandra Birchmore was also around 12, 13 years old as well too when she joined. 2003, Robert Devine brought in former explorers Matthew Farwell and his twin brother William as guest instructors. So he kind of, again, birds of a feather flock together. So he was like, hey, why don't you guys hook me up? And I don't know what their relationship, these three, or the brothers with Robert Devine, how deep that goes. If there's anything, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure more and more is going to come out. But later that year, William Farwell was designated a designated the rank of lieutenant within the Explorers program. William Farwell impersonated a police officer after having completed the Staunton Explorers program by activating strobe lights in his personal vehicle and pulling another vehicle over. Oh, that's great. He was caught by passing by officer Faria, who observed him out of his car to confront the civilian that he had unlawfully stopped and detained. I mean, yeah, you can't just pretend to be a police officer, bro. Like that literally, I mean, how many times have we heard too that people get pulled over by an unmarked vehicle and then they'll end up getting trafficked, right? They'll get kidnapped and sold to creepy creeps like these two douche canoes. Billy has volunteered with the Staunton Police Explorers program with which he grew up. He has assisted Staunton Police Executive Officer Robert Devine with the running of the annual academy, bringing in Army EOD equipment so the kids could try on a suit or drive one of the robots. I mean, I feel like this is kind of like weird. Like, how do you even explain, like, hey, kids, this thing protects you from getting blown up? September 6th, 2011, William Farwell applied to PD but was bypassed for employment. Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder why. Probably because you impersonated being a police officer when you were not, sir. December 9th, 2011, William, aka Billy, served full time with the Massachusetts National Guard and was deployed overseas to Kosovo. He was a U.S. Army Explosive Ordnance Team leader. 2012, William Farwell served full time and was deployed overseas. In July 20th, 2016, William Farwell was at the training at the Army's Joint Readiness Training Center, Fort Polk, Louisiana, Wednesday. William Farwell had been discharged from the military for misconduct, so it seems like he's always been kind of like a bad apple. And I'm really curious as to why, if anybody knows. September 2017, William Farwell received an offer of employment for the position of patrol officer. He also received an appointment to the Massachusetts State Police and attended the MSP Recruit Academy. So that's really interesting, especially considering everything that's going on right now within the MSP, not only within just the MSP, but their Recruit Academy as well too. So I'm curious how he was offered employment as a patrol officer after he was he also too was he dishonorably discharged? I mean, if it was for misconduct, I imagine so, or was he honorably discharged? And then he's just welcomed with open arms into the Staunton Police Department? I mean, I guess that, or excuse me, sorry, to the MSP. Like, I guess that tracks. Yeah. So Matthew Farwell, Police Explorer, 2002. In 2002, the Farwell brothers, aged 16 receiving training from Officer Robert Devine. So they've known him, and I can only imagine that he was the creepy dude who is teaching them his ways, of being just a total creepy, disgusting, deplorable human being. Prior to becoming a police officer, Matthew Farwell and William Farwell allegedly impersonated police officers and pulled over cars as teenagers, exercising an abuse of the trust of authority that accompanies the role of police officers. Although Devine has previously denied any such knowledge of that behavior as per the PD investigation report. However, such a lack of knowledge as described by the same report would be impossible, as Devine was the head of the program. Yeah, how did you not know, dude? Well, you probably did know, and who else knows what was going on behind the scenes there, too? I can only imagine. Was familiar with both Matthew and William and sat on the hiring board for both brothers. So he was the one who was like, yeah, we'll welcome you with open arms, right? 2002, Matthew Farwell, 16, right, used a replica weapon as he worked on a traffic stop scenario with juvenile officer Robert Devine during a meeting of the police explorers. Okay, so this is, I guess, Matthew Farwell, even though he looks like a 40-year-old man. Like, ugh, just the creepiest looking dudes ever.
Today we came out to conduct a joint demolition operation with Kosovo Security Forces Explosive Ordnance Disposal Unit. We're involved in this part of our mission on K4 to assist and train the Kosovo Security Forces guys in explosive ordnance disposal operations. It's helping to develop their skill set, and we also like to come out and learn some things from them. These technicians have been working with ordnance for about 10 years. They're very familiar with the ordnance found in this country, and it's a great learning experience for both teams. The ordnance that we disposed of today was found in a cache last weekend close to the Macedonian border. Over 350 pieces of ordnance were recovered by both KSF EOD team and a U.S. Army EOD team. The ordnance was transported out and kept in a bunker in a secure area until it could be disposed of later.
How disturbing is it, guys, that this guy right here, literally, his job was to handle kaboomy things. I don't know if I can say that word on here, so I'm going to avoid it as much as possible, but the kaboomy things. That's absolutely terrifying. That's really freaking terrifying.
Correct. We were called in to assist the KSF EOD team because we come with unique equipment that they don't have access to, extremely good publication system, and very good knowledge of ordnance from around the world. This is an important mission for us to work with them on. They hadn't had the experience of dealing with this many munitions at one time before, and this is something as the U.S., as K4 draws down in Kosovo, when we hand the mission fully over to the Kosovo Security Forces, they need to understand how to handle this in a safe and efficient manner, and they had a great example of that today. Did a great job. Explosions by far. It's one of the reasons I
question. What was that question?
Manner, and they had a great example of that today. Did a great job. Explosions by far.
I mean, they edited that question out, but I'm very curious what that question was, because like his reaction, and he gives me like Charlie Adelson vibes from the Adelson Institute video. If you guys have never seen that, it's just like that same like creepy like look in his eyes, the same creepy like half smile. It's just like you can feel the evil.
It's one of the reasons I became an EOD technician. Render safe hazards that exist. The general public doesn't understand sometimes how dangerous ordnance can be. It deteriorates over time, becomes even more hazardous as it gets older.
Well, I mean, what the public didn't actually know is how dangerous people like you could be. I mean, I'm floored. That's terrifying. That's terrifying. So anyways, May 18th, 2013. Now he's Sergeant Sergeant William Farwell of the 387th Explosive Ordnance Detachment, Massachusetts National Guard, assembles the Medium Directional Energy Tool, which is part of a suite of improvised kaboomy device countermeasure technology and equipment that provides EOD technicians the ability to access, disrupt, and neutralize large IEDs, most commonly seen as a car or truck kaboomy. Can also include boats, aircraft, large shipping containers on display here May 18th. So again, it's just so creepy to see like somebody who held that high of a rank with that much responsibility. It's crazy. It's crazy. So then July 20th, 2016, this is him again. During the annual shop with a cop at Target. Oh my god, so creepy. Mm. So this is him literally with a child as recent as 2018. 3 years before Sandra Birchmore is unalived by his brother. I mean, how freaking how shop with a cop? Like, whose idea was that? Whose idea? That's so disgusting and creepy. That gives me like, I don't know if you guys have seen this video circulating, but there's a video interview of, I think it's Charlemagne and the Breakfast Club. I don't know if it's the Breakfast Club or a different podcast, but it's from a long time ago, between Charlemagne and 50 Cent. And they're talking about P. Diddy, right? And 50 Cent was telling this story about how P. Diddy wanted to take him shopping. And 50 was like, that's weird. That's something that you do with you ask your woman, you ask your girlfriend, your wife to do, your partner, something. It's like an intimate thing. And this is just like, it gives me that same like ick factor. Like, why are you taking these kids shopping? Oh my god, so creepy. Whose idea was that? Where are the other adults? Where are the parents? So much ick factor, especially knowing what we know now. September 2014, William received an offer of employment for the position of patrol officer. He also received an appointment to the Massachusetts State Police and attended the MSP Recruit Academy. So 10 years ago, so weird. 2018, Sandra approached Billy with her interest in joining the Army. Okay, so here we go. Farwell put her in touch with an Army recruiter. I wonder who that recruiter is and what they know and what they could say. Billy said that Sandra got into the Army, but eventually got kicked out during boot camp. No, per Billy Farwell interview, so who actually knows if that was true or not? As far as we know, according to what came out in the indictment, it didn't seem like Sandra was, I mean, as far as I know, this could be true, it might not be true, but it seemed like her career path was heading in a different direction than that. January 10th, 2021, Sandra met with William Farwell in the parking lot of her apartment building after midnight on January 10th, 2021. So then this is the whole internal affairs investigation. I mean, I feel like we did read the IAB report. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't, but we're not going to get into that in this video because there's a lot we already need to cover. But if we haven't already, or if we did, we'll just rehash and redo in a different video. So February 1st, 2021, Matthew Farwell came to see Sandra. And now remember, a few days later, she was unalived. So that's weird. So 1 month before she's unalived. And why did he go visit her? I'm so curious. 3 days after, Matthew Farwell was the last one who saw Sandra alive and had told friends that she was pregnant with Matthew Farwell's child. Matthew Farwell denied that the baby was his, but we know it was, and you were actively talking about it, dude, via text message to Sandra. So I don't know what you want to say. Like, what do you want us to actually say? And he was the last to see her alive. He told troopers he visited Birchmore's apartment on the evening of February 1st, 2021, telling her that he wasn't the father of her baby, records show. Birchmore was upset, Farwell told the troopers, but didn't make any self-unaliving statements. Matt said, yeah, this was from Fanning in this weird, like, I think it was like a weird report that he filed, incident report or whatever, calling him Matt because they're buddies, right? Matt and Jack, right? Matt said that he was straightforward in his conversation with her and he told her that it was all over and he was blocking her from all forms of communication. Fanning wrote, surveillance footage from her apartment complex shows otherwise. So then, and again, this is why I want to go through this before we get into this decertification doc. February 11th. So, mind you, this is 7 days after she's unalived. 4:05 p.m., Trooper Matt Dunn interviewed Billy in a parking lot at Cobb's Corner in Stoughton. Oh, really official, right? Really official. Billy said that he heard Sandra passed away on Friday. That's a way to put it, right? And how about unalived? I mean, how much you wanna bet too, like, the twins got, like, that twin telepathy, so even if Matthew didn't tell him, and I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that. I'm sure that he knew and knows way more than he's leading on, and it's just a matter of time before, I mean, now that they scooped up his brother, I don't know. Now might be the time, Billy boy. Now might be the time. Billy said that he first met Sandra about 10 years ago when Sandra was a police. Yeah, how about when she was a kid, right? A kid, a child, a police explorer in Stoughton, and Billy was a guest instructor. The Police Explorers program is a junior academy program for high school aged kids, exposing them to the different facets of law enforcement, which apparently includes brooming and R-ing the children who participate in these programs because this is how this gross, creepy Epstein like ring works. Billy said that he had not seen Sandra in a very long time, probably since the Explorers program, which is a lie. Which is a lie. Because survey says you met with her a month before, less than a month before she was unalived by your brother at her apartment building. So that's a lie. Billy became a Staunton police officer. Okay, we already know that in 2017. Billy saw Sandra while he was working a paid detail in Staunton. Billy said that Sandra remembered him, but he didn't really remember her that well. Yeah, okay, sure, my guy. Billy said that Sandra wanted to get into the Army and asked if he had any contacts. Billy, who still serves in the military, helped her get in contact with the recruiters to get into the Army. So, I mean, if she remembered him, I mean, unless like there was conversations between her and Matthew saying like, "Oh yeah, my brother can help you get into the Army." I mean, could easily be corroborated because otherwise it's just your word against hers, right? Billy said that Sandra got into the Army but eventually got kicked out. I mean, again, we have no way of actually uh, knowing that, right? Unless, I mean, I guess, yeah, we could. Again, this is all easily verifiable information. Billy said that Sandra started constantly contacting him. Okay, well, when did you exchange numbers? Billy said that the last time he was in contact with Sandra was about 2 weeks ago via email. So it's so funny. He's like, well, I hadn't seen her in a long time, but I actually saw her 2 weeks ago. Okay. Sandra told Billy that she has been accepted to nursing school. Billy said that he had a relationship with Sandra going back about 2 years. So you haven't seen her in a while. You're claiming that you barely remembered her, but she somehow remembers you. Seemingly is asking for your help trying to get into the army, even though she's trying to get into nursing school. Like, okay. Oh, but you also had an intimate relationship with her 2 years ago. Like, something stinks. You stink. All of you stink. Billy said that in 2020 he had been with her maybe 2 to 3 times, which is I can't even express. I mean, how? Especially knowing what your brother did. Like, mm, maybe 2 or 3 times. Okay. Okay, Billy boy. Billy said that the last time they were together was sometime in December 2020. Now his memory is suddenly coming back, right? It's starting to reveal itself. Sandra told Billy that she was pregnant and that the father was his brother, Matt. Billy said he knew that he didn't get her pregnant. I mean, Lord have mercy. Evidence uncovered in the investigation found that William Farwell had engaged in multiple, inappropriate physical encounters, or the R-ing and ABUSINGing with Birchmore, and had sent explicit messages and photos to the girl while he was on duty. So to Sandra, let's say her name, or sorry, this is, oh, my apologies. This is a quote from Donna McNamara, okay, of the Staunton Police Department. To the girl. To the girl. If that's a direct quote and she called her to the girl, like, that is so shameful. Say her frickin' name. And it's Sandra, it's not Sarah. Let's get it right across all the board, right? All the boards. William made inappropriate cell phone exchanges with Birchmore while on duty, according to the findings, and reportedly introduced her to others. We heard about Joshua Heel, so I wonder if he was one of the people that he introduced her to. William Farwell of encouraging Birchmore to secretly record herself with others and send him the photos or videos. I mean, it seems like this was more than 2 to 3 times, so I don't really know. I don't think we went through this internal affairs investigate. I don't think we did. We went through the Matthew Farwell stuff. But if there's anything in here about, we haven't gone through any of the William Farwell. So I'm going to make a part 2 of this video because this is important. I mean, it's mm, mm. One photo sent by Birchmore to William Farwell on August 16th, 2020, depicted the male of an unnamed Staunton officer, according to Post records, which refer to Birchmore by her initials. William Farwell was aware that Birchmore believed she was pregnant with his brother's child and that Devine was ABUSINGing her as well too. Again, let's call it what it is. William Farwell has been put on military leave, was later informed that he was being placed on paid administrative leave. Town manager Robin A. Grimm said, William Farwell resigned from the department on August 1st, 2022, and began working the same day for the Transportation Security Administration at Baltimore Washington International Airport. So it seems like this internal affairs investigation conducted, and he was like, "Yep, I'm just gonna dip out. I'm gonna change states, right? Because that's what an innocent person, a not guilty person, does, right? They run away." After leaving the Staunton Police, William Farwell worked for the Transportation Security Administration as a Kaboomy specialist to Maryland, but the agency dismissed him in October 2022. A spokesman said he purchased a home in Rio Ranch, New Mexico. So I wonder, so he's getting canned from what, the military or the National Guard? He gets canned from I mean he removes himself, right? Yeah, he gets canned from the military. Um he gets canned from, or he leaves the Staunton Police Department, and then he gets canned from this other job in Maryland. Really upstanding man, don't you think? So, this is the decertification order now that we're going to go through. And again, I'm going to go through this internal affairs doc in a separate video just because it's long, but nevertheless, very important. Nevertheless, very important. And this is about 4 pages long. So, okay. So, in the matter of William Farwell, decertification order. The respondent, William Farwell, has entered into a voluntary decertification agreement under which he has agreed to the permanent revocation of his certification, also known as decertification, as a law enforcement officer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, beginning on the date of approval of the agreement by the Massachusetts Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission, and the entry of his decertification in the National Decertification Index, NDI. As for the conditions of the agreement, the respondent has waived all his rights to contest in this or any other administrative or judicial proceeding to which the commission is or may be a party, the factual allegations, conclusions of law, terms and conditions, and other provisions contained in the agreement. Accordingly, it is hereby ordered that for the reasons stated in the agreement, the respondent's law enforcement certification is hereby permanently revoked, so he can never be a law enforcement officer again in Massachusetts. The executive director shall characterize this action as a voluntary decertification because, again, it's just a nice way saying of you've been encouraged to do this. C, the executive director shall take the necessary step to publish the respondent's name in the NDI and any publicly available lists and database published by the commission. So he's on that list. Honor the Honorable Margaret R. Hinkle. That's a fun word. So that's a fun name. All right, so let's read this bad boy. Voluntary decertification agreement. In the interest of resolving the above captioned matter and consistent with the public interest and laws and regulations governing the Massachusetts Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission, including MGL, the respondent, William Farwell, and the commission hereby enter into this voluntary decertification agreement. Factual allegations. Here we go, guys. The respondent was employed as a police officer for Staunton, Massachusetts from March 21st, 2017 until August 1st, 2022, when he resigned. And they got that job in Maryland, right? On July 1st, 2021, the respondent was automatically certified as a police officer in Massachusetts pursuant to State 2020, Chapter 253, yada, 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 an act relative to justice, equity, and accountability in law enforcement in the Commonwealth. Throughout the time of the allegations described herein, the respondent was an active law enforcement officer employed by Staunton Police Department. My New York just came the F out, as I said, Staunton. Although the respondent had not personally submitted an application, the commission on October 10th, 2022, the commission denied the Staunton Police Department's application for renewal of the respondent's law enforcement certification. So this has been like ongoing since, I guess, that internal affairs investigation popped off. According to the Staunton Police Department's internal investigation report dated August 29th, 2022, it was alleged that the respondent misled Massachusetts State Police investigators about the extent of his relationship with Sandra Birchmore, a former member of the Staunton Police Department Explorers Program, whom the respondent first met when she was a juvenile and he was a guest instructor in the program. Further, it was alleged that the respondent exchanged explicit text messages with Sandra Birchmore, because let's keep saying her name, folks. Let's say her freaking name until they get that ingrained in their brains. While on duty on several occasions at a time when she was an adult. So you like how like they got to make that clear of, well, this was only when she was an adult, which I am not buying for shiz. What say you? Additionally, it was alleged that the respondent conducted several unauthorized searches of Criminal Justice Information Services CJIS databases, including querying himself and Sandra Birchmore without an official law enforcement purpose. Very curious to know what he was looking up. Very curious. On November 22nd, 2022, pursuant to 555C.M.R. yada, 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 the Commission directed its Division of Police Standards Division to open a preliminary inquiry to investigate the above allegations about the respondent. So Sandra Birchmore participated in the Explorers program beginning in 2010 when she was 13. She remained in the program until 2016 when she graduated from high school. She first met Billy Farwell through the Police Explorers program in 2011 when he was a guest instructor in the program, and she was only 14 or 15 years old. The division has no information that the respondent engaged in any inappropriate or conduct with Sandra Birchmore at a time when she was a minor. So again, they're making it very explicitly clear that this only happened after the fact, and it was seemingly consensual between the two. And again, speculation brain tells me probably not, right? Probably not. From 2017 through 2021, the respondent is alleged to have conducted approximately 26 unauthorized searches of CJIS databases. On 2 occasions in 2019, the respondent purportedly queried CJIS information on Sandra Birchmore despite having no official law enforcement purpose for doing so. I also wonder if she was aware that he was looking her up and like what he was looking up. So curious, right? On approximately 24 separate occasions, 24 times, the respondent allegedly conducted CJIS queries on himself without any official law enforcement purpose. So I wonder if he's trying to see, like, does anybody know what's going on? I don't know. Does somebody smell something stinky? Because I do. On multiple occasions in 2020, the respondent allegedly exchanged graphic text messages with Sandra Birchmore, including photographs and videos of nude individuals and individuals having intercourse. The graphic messages date back to April 2020 and were exchanged through December 2020. At the time of these exchanges, Sandra Birchmore was approximately 22. Several of these graphic messages were purportedly sent on dates and times when the respondent was on duty as a police officer. So, like brother, right? On February 4th, 2021, Canton police officers, our boys in the Canton Police Department, yeah, buddy, responded to Sandra Birchmore's apartment for a wellness check. They discovered that she had died, that she was unalived. She was unalived. She did not die. She was unalived. When interviewed on February 11th, 2021, pursuant to the Massachusetts State Police's investigation of Sandra Birchmore's death, the respondent allegedly admitted that he had a consensual relationship with her for about 2 years while Sandra Birchmore was an adult, and that in 2020 he had 2 or 3 encounters with her. The respondent allegedly reported that the last time he and she were together, sometime in December 2020, when Sandra Birchmore told the respondent that she was pregnant with his twin brother's child. I highly doubt that was the last time, considering you were at her apartment January 10th, less than a month before your brother unalived her, allegedly. It is alleged that text messages between Sandra Birchmore and the respondent indicate that the two met for an encounter in the parking lot of her apartment building on January 10, like I just said, which is inconsistent with the respondent's alleged statement to the Massachusetts State Police. So I wonder if they call him Billy. John Fanning calls him Billy, right? Take a sip of water. Applicable law. The commission shall have all the powers necessary or convenient to carry out and effectuate its purposes, including but not limited to the power to 1. Act as the primary civil enforcement agency for violations of Chapter 6E, deny an application or limit, condition, restrict, revoke, or suspend a certification or fine a person certified for any cause that the commission deems reasonable. Restrict, suspend, or revoke certifications issued under Chapter 6E, conduct adjudicatory, proceedings in accordance with Chapter 30A. Pursuant to MGL, the commission may, after a hearing, suspend or revoke an officer's certification if the commission finds by clear and convincing evidence that the officer has a pattern of unprofessional police conduct that the commission believes may escalate. The commission shall publish any revocation order and findings. The commission shall provide all revocation information to the National Decertification Index. No officer may apply for certification. That officer's certification has been revoked pursuant to this section. The commission may institute a disciplinary hearing after an officer's appointing agency has issued a final disposition the alleged misconduct, or 1 year has elapsed since the allegations were reported to the commission, whichever is sooner. Unless otherwise provided by law, agencies may make informal disposition of any adjudicatory proceeding by stipulation, agreed settlement, consent order, or default. Respondents' alleged conduct described above, if proven by clear and convincing evidence, would constitute a pattern of police misconduct. I mean, that's a way of saying it. That's a way of saying that he allegedly took part in the grooming and abusing of this poor woman / former child. I mean, who knows? Who knows what else he knows? I don't buy that he. Not going to speculate further on that. And that may escalate and would justify discipline against the respondent pursuant to resolution. In view of the foregoing alleged violation, the commission has determined that the public interest would be best served by the disposition of this matter without further enforcement proceedings on the basis of the following terms and conditions which have been agreed to by the respondent. And again, I just want to make this clear. William Farwell has not been criminally charged with anything yet. So we will see. We will see as time unfolds and the more and more digging that goes down. The respondent agrees that if this matter were to proceed to an adjudicatory hearing, the allegations described above, if proven by clear and convincing evidence, would permit the commission to impose significant discipline up to and including his decertification as a law enforcement officer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The respondent, without admitting the truth of the above allegations made against him, agrees to the permanent revocation of his law enforcement officer certification in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The respondent voluntarily waives any rights he may have to appeal, upgrade, or otherwise challenge his current status of not certified, including but not limited to any appeal or challenge to the October 10th, 2022 decision of the Commission denying the Staunton Police Department application for renewal of the respondent's law enforcement certification. The respondent waives all rights to contest the factual allegations, so he's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to challenge this. I'm good. I'm just going to take this and leave." Conclusions of law, terms, and conditions, or other provisions contained in this agreement in any administrative or judicial forum to which the Commission is or may be a party. The respondent acknowledges that once this agreement and any order of suspension issued by the Post Commission are executed, they will be public documents and will be published on the Commission's website pursuant to yada, yada, yada. Furthermore, the status of the respondent's certification will be publicly available on certain lists and databases published by the Commission. The respondent understands and acknowledges that, as required under yada, 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 the Commission will submit all revocation information, including a copy of this agreement and any order of decertification for inclusion in the National Decertification Index. This agreement shall be effective as of the date it is approved by the Commission. That was today, 9/24. 9/24 was approved. So there you have it. I will link it below if y'all want to read more. But yeah, I mean, I'm very curious to dig into the actual internal affairs investigation document, because we saw, like I said, we already went through that hefty document that was just really, really difficult to read through following the indictment of Matthew Farwell. So I'm curious to know what William Farwell knows. Not only just about the ABUSC between of his brother, but also his connection with Robert Devine, the history with that. Were they, again, I don't know. It's just a weird, icky connection. I think he definitely, at the very least, knows way more than he's leading on. Very evasive. Seems like they have to find the evidence for him to fess up. Will he testify against his brother? I don't know. Maybe he's striking up a deal with the feds. Who knows about Matthew's alleged involvement in the unaliving of Sandra Birchmore? All we want is justice for Sandra Birchmore at the end of the day. I hope that she finds peace knowing that there are people who care and who will say her name and scream it from the freaking rooftops, because she deserves that, because she deserves so much better than the piece of crap life that was handed to her. That being said, if you want to stay up to date with the next update in this case, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next update from me. And make sure you hit that like button, because it's very, very important that we tell the YouTube algorithm that this is very newsworthy news and these things need to be talked about. And screw censorship, screw all of that. This deserves to be talked about in the way that it needs to be talked about. We need to get as many eyeballs onto this as possible. Thanks so much for watching and continuing to support justice for Sandra Birchmore, and I'll see you in the next one.